going. All right, thanks everyone for showing up to this live event. I used to do these a lot more in the past, and I've been wanting to do more of stuff like this. So expect more videos like this. And, if you get through this and you'd like to see more, or you have different ideas that you would like to see me do, send me an email, let me know. So I do have the chat up. I will make a point to take a look at that as well as we go through this presentation. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. So today what I want to go over is really kind of it's really a research thing that I've been working on, right? So this is research that I've been going over. I would consider this still kind of in development. I am testing some stuff out. I'm not trading anything live at this point in regards to what I'm going over today, but I expect I will be rather soon. So that's where we are with that. So what we're looking at now is the build alpha interface. And maybe you have build alpha, maybe you don't. So we're going to be using build alpha to build out a trading system. And it's actually one of the techniques that I really kind of like. I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but I like to use build alpha in certain ways, and one of those ways is exactly what we're going to be going over today. The other thing that we'll be covering today is taking that step that I'm talking about and pushing it to something called a swarm mode. And that's really what the focus of this will be. If you have questions, go ahead, put them in the comments section, or go ahead and interrupt me. I think we have a small group here. It's probably about 50 people. Yeah, it's about 50 people, so not still so bad. Alex is wondering, is this still the old build alpha? It is. It is. The old build alpha, for those of you who aren't aware, build alpha has been in a major revision for the past 2 years. I think Dave is working on a new version of the software, and I was hoping to see it a lot sooner than it has been for now, and we're all waiting to hear that. Yeah, just to be clear, what I'm going to show you is just my latest research. Yeah, Alex is saying it's probably been more like 3 years. I agree. I have been and trading systems live with Build Alpha. Not many, just because Build Alpha is rather new to me. But what I have here today is just I'm not trading live, but I think I will be in the not too distant future. I do have one thing running in simulation mode as I'm testing, but enough of that. So even if you're not familiar with Build Alpha, I think you're going to find this very helpful. So the techniques that I'm going to show you, particularly the swarm mode concept, can be applied to any market, in my opinion, using any tool you want, right? You can code it up yourself. You can use Build Alpha. You can use whatever. All right, let's see. I got my notes here, making sure I do not forget anything. Um, I will have some links at the conclusion of this. At the conclusion of this, I will send out some links to you that will show you some video demonstrations on other things you can do with Build Alpha, how to get a copy of Build Alpha if you're interested in that. I will also be sending out the recording of this. So that will be coming up in an upcoming email. All right, what we're going to do is start out with Larry Connor's two-period RSI. Now, I do this one because it's so simple, right? That book came out, I think, in 2008 or something. But the two-period RSI continues to work really well as a simple mean reversion type indicator for the stock index markets. So it's simple. Everyone's pretty familiar with it, and that's what we're going to start out with in Build Alpha. So what I have here is the Build Alpha interface. And shared screen has low resolution. Does anyone else have that issue? Hopefully it's coming out okay.
Yeah, it's a bit fuzzy, but I understand.
Okay, we got a couple other people saying it's a bit fuzzy. Did that improve it a bit? I tried to expand it.
That helped a little.
Maybe helped a little. Okay. Maybe it'll look better in the recording. And that's the thing with these live events. Things, they never work out. Yeah, it pretty much is full screen right now. Right. I do have Brian, I do have it pretty much in full screen mode. Um, I have some notes off to the side just so I don't forget anything. That's why. But this is the pluses and minuses to live events.
You may know, I don't know about Zoom in this point, but maybe if the people that don't need to have video on had it off, would that help, Jeff? I don't
I
know.
really am not sure if that would help. It may or may not. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. It might be worth trying. Aaron says it's clear on his end. It may just be a local thing, may be intermittent. Also, it might depend if my wife's on a live video call. My wife works from home too, and sometimes she has virtual meetings. So, again, I apologize, but we'll see what this looks like in the recording. But what we're going to do is try to build out that two-period RSI. So what you can do in Build Alpha, it's a data mining tool, but you can also attempt to build strategies inside of it with the concepts that you have. So what we have here in the Build Alpha interface that we're looking at right here is all these different indicators. And what we're going to do is go to RSI, find the RSI component, and we can see here that it is selected. Now, what I did was, you'll notice that there's, for the two-period RSI less than 30, that's going to be our buy condition. And by check marking this column here and this one here, we're telling Build Alpha, hey, take this into consideration as a entry signal, and we're going to force that. In other words, we're going to force it to be actually happen. Build Alpha has to use this rule as an entry signal. It doesn't have to consider it, it has to have it. That's what these three columns mean. The farthest left says consider it. The middle one says absolutely, it must be in there. And the last one, this final column off to the far right, that's our exit condition. So instead of coding up the two-period RSI in EasyLanguage, we find the rules that we want, we select them with these check marks, and there's our strategy. So we're telling Build Alpha that we want to have the two-period RSI below 30, and we want to exit when the two-period RSI goes above 70. Again, if you're
I'm
not
not,
familiar with this, it's the two-period RSI concept popularized by Larry Connors.
I'm not seeing anything. Are you showing something?
Yeah, you don't see anything there?
I see a big screen with lots of little things on it, but it's not changing.
You may have a window hiding behind another window because are you seeing all the participants to this group?
Yeah, yeah,
Are you seeing all the names? So you
yeah.
may have the window that he's sharing behind your window that you're seeing.
That's very possible. That's very possible because it should be definitely showing up. And I think everyone else is seeing it in various qualities.
Mm,
Again, this will be recorded, so
mm,
this will be available as a recording. So we do have this set up correctly now. Now, those are the rules. Now, what we also want to do is go up to the upper corner here. I'm going to pick long or short. I got this set configured to long. We're going to be doing the ES market. We can also see here that I have our in-sample start date. What this is going back to is January 1st of 2006 and ending in December 31st of 2022. All right, so basically 2006 all the way up to 2022. Now, why didn't I go up to the current date? Obviously, what we want to do is leave a chunk of data as unseen data for our out of sample. And that's why we're going up to 2022, all the way through 2022, I should say. So 2023 and beyond is going to be out of sample. All right, we don't have any stop losses, profit targets, or anything. The next thing I want to highlight here off to the left-hand side is we're going to be using 50% of that out of sample, or excuse me, 50% of that historical data is going to be in sample and out of sample. So when you're using Build Alpha, it's going to have an in sample period and an out of sample period as well. Outside of that, we're actually constraining Build Alpha to work from 2006 and 2022. That means 2023 and beyond is true unseen data that Build Alpha is never going to see. However, what Build Alpha is going to do with this data segment that we have given it, 2006 through 2022, it's going to divide it up into two pieces, 50% each, one in sample and one out of sample. So that can be a little confusing if you're not used to seeing that. So there are an out of sample for when we're building in Build Alpha, and then there is a true out of sample segment, what we'll get to down the road. All right, then there's only one other thing. Again, this isn't a demonstration of Build Alpha. I have other videos for that if you're interested in that. I'm just kind of setting this up, explain just the real basics here so you can see where we're coming from. I have this all configured correctly, slippage, commissions, open on next bar at open, okay? And that looks all good. So we selected our rules. We configured everything. I'm going to simulate this. So Build Alpha went ahead and ran this. We just have one simulation, right? And that is the rules that we gave it. And we can see here at the top, we have the in sample, out of sample, and all. I'm going to go to all. And what this is showing is the parameters, or I should say the performance for that out of sample, excuse me, the in sample and out of sample. Before we look at the equity curve, I do want to highlight over here, the name of the strategy is actually the entry signal. And we can see what this is. I know it's hard to see. It's hard for me to see. Basically, we have two rules in here. One is a default rule Build Alpha is always looking for. That is the closing price is non-zero. In other words, we have a valid closing price. And then there's our 2-period RSI less than 30, right? And then here's our exit parameter. And we can see that that says it's a 2-period RSI when the 2-period closing price or 2-period RSI is above 70. That's generating about $150,000 in profit, and we can see what the equity curve looks like. So the equity curve in Build Alpha, we can see there's this purpley thin line here. That's the in sample, and then the kind of highlighted blue sample, our line there, is the out of sample. Okay. So that's our 2-period RSI. And, that looks pretty good on its own, right? Just those simple rules do something that looks like this. But the thing is, of course, I bet we can add some rules to this in an attempt to improve it, right? I think that makes sense that we can easily do that. See if I can bring that back up. Now this is, let me show you how I would go about doing this. And this is a technique that I like to use. I think it's one of my favorites. And people who have taken my class, they'll know what I'm talking about when I say a key idea. Let's say we went out to like a website somewhere, we went to a YouTube channel and they were explaining a trading model, a trading system that they like, and they talk about and they show you the rules. StatOasis does this. You can maybe go to George Pruitt's website and see this. What I'll do is I'll take their idea and I'll strip it down. I'll remove a filter. I'll remove the stops, right? And I'm going to boil it down to this core essence. Probably a simple entry rule and a simple exit rule. No stops, no targets, no filters. And what I'll then use is I'll bring it into Build Alpha and data mine other filters, stops, and exits using the power of Build Alpha. Taking a look at the comments. Yeah, there definitely will be a recording. Yes. So that's kind of one of the ways, and the main ways I really like Build Alpha, is I will take an idea, wherever it's from, a book, a magazine, online, strip it down to what I call a key idea, which means removing all the stops and exits and filters, getting it down to its core trading system, which is a simple buy and a simple exit. And that's what we have here. Larry Connor's 2-period RSI, if you go into his book, which was published, almost 15, 20 years ago, he will then also have some other filters onto it, but this is it. This is the core concept the 2-period RSI of when it's below 30, buy, when it rises above 70, sell. And this is what we have. So now that we have this, we can see we have some drawdowns. We want to improve it. All right, how we do that? Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to clear out RSI here in the sense that I want to show you all of the different filters. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to just select the legacy filters. This is going to give us a complete list of all types of filters, right? Wick and body, pivot points, candlestick patterns, day of the month, simple moving averages, bar types. Here's our RSI, MACD, bunch of stuff. I'm just going to come over here, select all, and I know it's hard to see, but it's nearly 4,000 different indicators have been selected. Build Alpha does have more. I'm just going to keep it simple and keep to the legacy indicators right now, just to keep the demonstration moving, okay? But Build Alpha has upwards of approaching, I believe, 7,000 indicators. Let's do this. So we've selected that. We have also then have to change something here. I have to make sure. All right, here it is. Yeah, it says 2. Okay, what I just looked at here was what I'm telling Build Alpha to do, this little configuration is, hey, I have my core idea, my 2-period RSI. What I want you to do is data mine through these thousands of different indicators and pick one. Pick one that works. In other words, we're going to have a strategy with 2 conditions for entry, and we'll keep our standard exit as well. All right, okay, so I hope that's clear. So we selected all these different types of indicators. We're going to tell Build Alpha to go ahead and data mine over 4,000 different indicators and tell us which are the top ones that work. And we're only going to be adding one at a time.
Hey, Jeff, I have a quick question about
Yeah,
that.
sure.
When you say 4,000 different indicators, 2 different indicators could be a 21 EMA and a 34 EMA, and those are considered by Build Alpha 2 different indicators.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
good, yeah, that's a good point. And so for an example, here I'm looking under the SMA. I just expanded that. It says there's 64 indicators under SMA. And you can see what it's doing in this particular one, open versus the simple moving average of 3 bars ago, 8 bars ago, 20 bars. And then it's doing the high versus a simple moving average, and then the low, and then the close. And then it does the same thing for an EMA. That's what that looks like. So yeah, it's taking a simple moving average and doing different combinations of that. Yeah. Good question. All right. What we're going to do is simulate this. All right. So Build Alpha went through. You see how fast that was? I'm always amazed at how fast it is. Let me expand this out a bit. All right, so Build Alpha has now generated a bunch of strategies here. I'm going to go to the all data segment. So this is going to include the in sample and out of sample segment. And I'm going to go and organize these net profit versus drawdown. So net profit versus drawdown is what's at the top here. And we could see, I know it's hard to see, but what we have here is our 2-period RSI condition for entry, as well as a Keltner channel. Interesting. So we can go take a look at that equity curve, and this is what it looks like with a Keltner channel as a filter. Again, in sample, and then the light blue out of sample. That looks pretty good. Let's go take a look at another. The one right below it, wow, so the one above that, the Keltner channel one was making a net profit of $72,000. The one below it has a simple price filter. And what it's saying here is the open of 7 bars ago must be greater than the close of 9 bars ago. And then, of course, we have our 2-period RSI entry. And that produces an equity curve that looks like this. Well, we can just keep going on down here. Here's an interesting one. It's using RSI in a very unique way. It's comparing a 14 period RSI and another 14 period RSI. In other words, it looks like it's looking for an RSI on a 14 period to be within a certain band. And that's producing an equity curve that looks like this. So, traditionally, what a lot of us would do in a situation like this is, well, I got to figure out which one am I going to trade, right? And so you might organize these like I did by net profit versus drawdown and kind of look through the different parameters here. Um, or maybe you'll organize these by net profit or yeah, just pure net profit, and you'll pick the best one. You'll have your way of going about doing this, but the conundrum is, well, there's so many, right? Which one are you going to pick? And that's kind of where the crux of the swarm mode concept comes in. All right, let me see here. All right. So does that make sense? The problem here,
Yes.
yeah.
Can we filter it with the number of trades, and we can see the how many trades say in a week?
That is good. I don't know if I can do it in number of weeks. It does have the total trades here, so you could organize these by the total trades. This one here has the minimum 100, and this one has the max almost 400 trades.
And what is the period in 400? This is for 1 year, or this is 2 years data?
This right here would be 2006. Let me bring up the equity curve. 2006 and 2006 through 2022.
Oh, okay. So it
Yeah.
is almost like 18 years.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have about 18 years. Now, the other thing, which I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but of course, at this stage of the game, what I like to do is, if, oh, I'm going to organize these by net profit versus drawdown. Let's say I really like,
Why I was
yeah.
asking, because I tried with strategy quant and this thing, and I have also running some stuff with the strategy quant. So I had the challenge of this thing, even in strategy quant, I found, oh, this is coming with 100%, very nice in the 2 or 3 exit rolls, and triple R is good and everything. But when it's come to, the paper trading, I found even couple of strategies they are not hitting in a month because that was showing me that every week there's supposed to be one trade.
Hmm.
So the exposure factor is to me is important because if I get the best of the best strategy in the world and it's not hitting in a decade one, so
Hmm.
what's the use of this one? So that's why I was saying if we can filter with exposure factor that how many trades can be done in a week or month, something like that. That maybe it could be helpful.
Sure, sure. That may be a helpful metric. If you're interested in something like that, this particular strategy trades on a daily basis and it doesn't trade a whole lot, right? So here, what do we have? We have on this particular one, we're approaching just over 100 trades, which isn't a lot in this one. And some of them on here are 300 if we go grab. Maybe we look at this one, just over 300 trades, 325 or so. So, but yeah, I definitely don't want to turn this into a build alpha discussion per se. Again, this concept that I'm about to show you can be applied to anything. It can be applied if you're just writing strategies in code. It can be used in strategy quant. It can be used in build alpha. Yeah.
But just a quick general question, Jeff, not about Build Alpha per se, but about the 18 years of backtest, because I know in other discussions we've often discussed, yeah, system works till it doesn't, or you have to do periodic optimizations and adjustments and adaptations to the changing market conditions. When I think of 2006 to 2022, and just one strategy with one set of parameters working through that whole thing, it's almost like you're making a statement that, yeah, this strategy with no changes over 18 years works every day. And your equity curve kind of shows that. But then that goes counter to a lot of experiences I've got where, yeah, you have a great strategy and then it falls apart because of changing markets or something. Could you just make a general comment about what your feelings are about that in this context?
Well, basically, I always, particularly when you're working with daily charts, I want to see 18 years. This would be different if this was a strategy on a 60 or a 30-minute chart. You can get away with less data. So in that regard, what I want to do is have as much data on the daily. So yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what I would do next is we got the premise down here is that, hey, you know what? This looks decent, right? This looks decent, but what am I going to do with so many? Well, let's first do something else. Let's close this out. We've kind of demonstrated that this looks pretty good, right? What I'm going to do is I never trade without stops, right? So I'm going to go ahead and activate a stop. And what I'm also going to do is a max hold time of 1. And I'm going to test a max hold time of 2 and 3 as well. The reason I'm doing this is because, we still had some drawdown in there and I'm tinkering around. I'm playing around here and I want to see if we can improve this a bit more. So all I did was added a stop loss. The original one didn't have a stop loss. And then also a different exit, a max hold time of 1 bar, 2 bars, or 3 bars. All right. So we're going to go through here. Go to all. Let me bring this up so everyone can see. Go to drawdown, organize by drawdown. Again, our Keltner channel came up to the top, and we can see the equity curve is a bit even smoother. Again, I'm not going to go into what I would do for validating, but let's say I wanted to trade this one. Well, in TradeStation, in Build Alpha, there is a variance test. I would quickly take a look at this. This is telling me the risk of ruin looks good. I would use the noise test, which puts it over different periods of data. So I would say that this looks good. Great. Maybe I could trade that one live. But here's another one. Ooh, that looks really good too. I put it through my tests, whatever those tests. Maybe that one's not as good. Maybe I need to change that. I don't know. Noise test looks really good. The point again is I've got this to a point where there's stops, there's filters, there's a couple exits, and maybe several of these look really good. So what do we do? So the concept of the swarm mode is we don't want to just select one strategy here. What we want to do is take advantage of micro contracts. Micro contracts are 1/10 the size of the standard contract that we would be trading, the mini, right? So in theory, if you are going to dedicate one contract to a particular trading system, such as this Larry Connors, what you could do is trade 10 of these, right? You could pick this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and if whatever. And you pick 10 of those and trade one micro contract each. That's the concept of the swarm mode that we don't know. We could go in here and say, hey, I really like these two up here that use the Keltner channel, but we don't know what it's going to do on the out of sample. But this one looks good too, and this one looks good too. Well, do we have a crystal ball and know which one's going to work into the future? No. So we're going to diversify our risk by trading multiple systems for this one concept. Does that make sense? That's the whole gist of it here. And I'll show you the next steps that I'll do. Okay. So what I would do in Build Alpha or any other program is, let's say that I was convinced that the Keltner channel one looks pretty good. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to add it to the portfolio. What this did was just put it under this little tab here. I like to think of this as just a saving space. You know, it's not a portfolio I'm going to be using for validating it. It's just a savings place. I'm going to come down here, and that was a Keltner channel. Let me look at the comments. I would diversify on short side as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit more about that. How to actually you can improve this on the going further, and that's a good point too. So I selected one that had a Keltner channel. But look at this one here. This one here, right below it, is using day of the week. And it's producing an equity curve that looks like that. That looks solid as well. I'm going to put that into my little portfolio. And then this one here is using a indicator called value high with a stop loss. It looks like an indicator there. Maybe you don't like that one. Maybe you do. Does this mean that this should be applied to other futures? Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that is a good question. All right, so I'm going to go add this one. I'm going to add that one. Okay, what am I doing now? I'm looking through here, and what I want to do is I want to find strategies that are different, right? I want to find strategies that are not using the same entry rules and exit rules because I'm trying to create some type of diversification. Well, ultimately, you're going to come through here and you're going to reach a point where it's like, all right, I've exhausted these ideas. All right, what we can do is this. We've exhausted the ideas here. I'm going to come over here and we could try something like changing the fitness function. The fitness function was net profit versus drawdown. Well, let's just try expectancy score. Simulate this. Build Alpha generated tens of thousands of strategies in those few seconds. Organize. Oh, we're going to go to all and see what bubbles up to the top. Here we have another value indicator. Day of the week. You can see that they've changed a bit. So again, I would go through here and let's say I just happen to like this one. Add that to the portfolio. I exhaust this, and then what I would do is I would change something else here. Let's try a slightly longer hold time. Instead of going in increments of 1 days, we go 2, and we'd simulate that. Organize these by all, net profit versus drawdown, and review these. And then what I would do, I would maybe test a profit target. I would change the stop loss. I would try a trailing stop. I'm not going to go through all of that, but you can see what I'm doing here, and I hope that's clear, right? What I'm doing is making a collection of systems. I just have 3 here, but what I'm going to do is generate maybe 10 or 15 different strategies with slightly different entry rules and slightly different exit rules. So you can imagine maybe I have 10 or 15 here. And what I'm going to do next is, this is a real magic of Build Alpha, right? I'm going to select my strategy that I want, generate the EasyLanguage code, and save that file. Then I'm going to go down to the next one. Generate the EasyLanguage code, save that as a file. And what I'm going to do then is go into TradeStation. So I did these earlier today. I did exactly what you just saw. I generated different signals using Build Alpha, and I just picked 5 just to keep it real simple. But you could have 10 here. You could have 15 here. And what I did was load those into TradeStation, and then I moved it. Let's see. Let me make sure. Yes. I moved these to the out of sample. So what I wanted to demonstrate here is these are 5 strategies, and we can look at their performance. So this very first one here, we look at the strategy. It's RSI 2 demo, number 5, right? And we can see the performance report or the equity curve. Let's start with that. We can see we're going from 2022 to 2025. That was one strategy. What if we traded this one down here, right? This one looks a little different. Up in this corner, there's another strategy. This one has a little bit different. This one looks different. This one looks different. This one looks different. The point here is it's nice that they all worked out, right? They're all profitable, and that just shows you the robustness of that 2-period RSI and mean reversion on the ES market. Still alive and strong, okay, after 20 years. But you can imagine that we wouldn't know which one would be the best one. We could never know what is the best one. So I just wanted to show you that's what that would look like. Also at this point, what I would do is go ahead and generate the performance report on all of your strategies. Like I said, I have 5 here. Maybe we have 10 or 15. What I would do then is use another tool called Portfolio Analyst. All right. This is a tool called Portfolio Analyst. And what this will do is take all of your individual strategies from TradeStation or multi-charts, load them in here. So this is exactly what I did before the video started, is I just loaded those strategies. I loaded a bunch more, right? I showed 5. I think we have 10 or 15 or something. And so these were all generated through Build Alpha as you just saw, okay? And what I can do here is go ahead and generate a report. This is going to combine those as if you could trade those all together. And we could take a look at the performance summary. Let me move this chat out of the way. You can look at the equity graphs, and you can do drawdowns. But all of that looks great. But what I'm really concerned about is negative correlation. More specifically, I want to focus on negative correlation on the monthly returns. What is this? This is comparing all of our strategies against each other and asking the question, which one of these are in drawdown at the same time? For a month, right? So these are monthly returns that are negative, right? Correlated negative monthly returns. We can see some of these are coming up in bold red. So Swarm Demo 004 and Swarm Demo 003. You can imagine, because we have the core concept is identical through all of these systems, and we're just varying filters on the entry and exit, that some of these are going to be poorly performing together. They're going to overlap. So at this stage of the game, I would go through each one of these, and the ones that are highly correlated, make a decision and remove it from the portfolio, right? That would be my next step, is to go and find the highly correlated ones. And then from there, once you have done that, then what you could do is start the concept of the swarm mode. So after that, let's say these 5 are the ones that are working well. I have 5 strategies. I'm trading micro contracts for them. And so I would trade 2 contracts each. Okay. And the hope here is that, hey, we don't know which one's going to work. We're going to instantly diversify across that. So that's the gist of swarm mode and how I use Build Alpha. So does that make sense to everybody? I know that's kind of a lot, particularly if you're not familiar with the technology behind it, Build Alpha, whatnot. But don't let that, confuse you.
No question, Jeff.
Yes.
Could you put up your TradeStation charts again?
Sure.
with these, like if you had a TradeStation account and you're trading ES on all five of these charts, do you also have labeled entries and exits so that for example, the exits in the top left chart don't affect the bottom right chart, for example? Or if you get an exit on any of these charts, you're going to exit all of these, and then the performance is going to be different.
That would work if that would be the problem if you put these all into one chart. When they're individual separate charts like this, it's going to be separated out.
Seriously, by the trade manager and TradeStation, it will consider these all different ES
Different
contracts
systems.
entries.
Yeah.
Really?
They are different strategies. Yeah.
Well, right. I
Yeah.
understand that. I
Yeah.
thought trade manager would just say, "Oh, he wants to exit all his contracts in ES,"
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you're saying it's chart specific.
Yeah. If you, I
Uh,
did some experiment with this. You could combine these all into one system. And if you do that, you would have to label your entries and exits.
right, right.
Yeah.
But I was embarrassingly unaware that a separate chart of the same symbol gets managed separately. So in the same account you're saying I could be long ES in one chart and short ES in another one?
Now, in that instance, TradeStation will take you flat.
Okay, so that's really the same issue then, isn't it? Because you think you're trading this top left chart, but one of your systems shouldn't have been exiting, but it went flat because of the bottom right chart.
All of these are long, so it will be incrementally
Or
adding
flat.
contracts
Or
and
flat.
or
I mean,
or
what?
you'll scale in or out appropriately. Yeah.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
they're all long, then it's either going to be flat or long, depending on where they all
Oh,
are. If you're long
okay.
and short, I run 50 strategies at once, like 20 ES ones, or some are long, some are short. When one is long and one is short, the strategy are both in, but your account is flat because one's in, one's out, until
Oh,
another one exits, and then you'll be back in again.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, you can
Wow.
actually go into TradeStation, build a system that's going to run like on a 1 minute chart or a 2 minute chart, and and put it in simulation mode, and you can actually see this happen in real time, how it manages.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
also, Neil, in automation, there's a setting in there that allows multiple automated strategies on multiple charts you'll want to click.
Good
Thank you
point.
very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, I have a question.
Sure.
Let's say this is the key idea of our say 2 days, and we are filtering with Kent Chanel and Bollinger XYZ and five more, let's say, and then we are testing one after another. My question is that instead of the running five different exit role or five different 4 or 5 different strategies, why not we are keeping our key ideas like today's RSI at the top, and then when we are exiting, then we can say or A exit A B C D. This is with or. So in that case, the manageability point of view I'm talking. So in that case, instead of running the five different strategies, I can run one strategy, and with the five different kind of exit roles. So and then definitely system can do it for me. That is my concern also. So I selected maybe five, and then I come up with a portfolio, and
Yeah.
then come up with a portfolio coding. And I'm not doing anything actually. System combine everything after your correlation analysis, definitely. And then the system will give me one single strategy, and then I can play with that one. What do you think about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do with this. I see this kind of as a starting point. Yours, what you discussed, may start getting a little trickier in regards to having one system kind of, hey, where am I going to get out? TradeStation gets a little, if you have it into one system, kind of like what we were talking about, when you're scaling out with different exits, you're going to have tweak your code a little bit. What I showed you was kind of like it's really the simplest way you can go. You just load these into a chart and they're pretty much ready to go. There's other things you could do along the same lines of thinking. For example, you could have these five systems and you can combine them into one system. And what you want to do is create a voting scheme. So what you would do is you'd have 5 different entries in one strategy, and when one fires off, it actually doesn't issue a buy order. It increments a variable, a counter. And so only if 3 of the indicators or 3 of the unique strategies fire, then you actually put an actual buy order out there. So that would be a voting scheme, another type of ensemble type concept. All of this falls under ensemble trading, I believe, in trading. And I certainly don't know which one's the best one. Again, this is just a new concept that I've been experimenting with, but I would definitely take your idea, and it's worth exploring. It's worth looking at. It's definitely worth looking at.
Hey,
But
Jeff, it's Aaron.
yeah,
Have you tried that ensemble approach on intraday charts, the voting system?
I haven't. Yeah, all of this is on daily charts right now, just because it's faster, you know. But definitely, it's worth there, worth testing it.
Brian, can you use intraday data in Build Alpha?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, Build Alpha is real nice that way. It comes with daily data on several ETFs. I just use futures, I believe Yen Forex, but you can easily import any time frame you want.
So basically, with Build Alpha, if you have TradeStation and Build Alpha and you want to deal with intraday data, you would export it from TradeStation and import it into Build Alpha to get Build Alpha that data. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, you would fire up your TradeStation, go to the chart, 60-minute chart of the ES market for the past 15 years. And TradeStation has under their data window, it's one button. You click that, it exports the data. You put it into a folder, and I'll have one folder with all my intraday data, and then I just point Build Alpha to that folder, and it pulls it from there.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah,
Can
I
Build
usually
Alpha
use the
use
60 and
range
30
bars?
minute.
I'm sorry.
Can can Build Alpha use range bars and other non-time based bars?
That is a good question. Brian, do you know about that? I'm not overly familiar with that.
I'm sorry, the question is
Can you
time-based.
use non-standard bars on Build Alpha? Like range bars?
Well, I don't think that'll work so well. They're going to expect the open, high, low, close data in there
Okay.
in the
Yeah,
data file.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I've never experimented with those bars, and I don't remember, I would have to go to their website or ask Dave because I don't really remember. But yeah, that
Well,
makes
like
sense, Brian.
range bars, for example, they have an open, high, low, close, and so the data window in TradeStation should show
Yeah,
the open, high, low, close of a range bar.
yeah,
So
that's true too. I
yeah.
really don't know off the top of my head. I would have to go and take a look if it uses it. Go over to the Build Alpha website and see if they support that. That would be good.
Well,
Again,
if you
I
can
will.
export it from TradeStation,
Sure.
I mean, hey, you just export whatever data you want, throw it in there, and see what kind of things that it gives, because it'll be different data than the standard bars, but you could see what kind of strategies it'll generate for it. However, I don't see how you're going to see it in TradeStation, but yeah, how to bring it back to trade it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm just on time bars, so I'm definitely not the person to ask for that, but or if it works well. Jade, yeah, Jade, it will be recorded. All right, I'm taking a look
Put
here.
this out there for the group. Uh,
Um,
Jeff,
yeah,
on Build Alpha, like, I don't know who, there's quite a few people here. I'm just going to share my personal experience. So I'm a discretionary trader mostly right now. I think what this all represents is ultimately the way to go. I started Jeff's Coder Edition back in 22. I'm on like week 7 of 9. And I thought, you know what? I know a lot about the markets. I'm gonna go the Build Alpha route. I spent probably 6 or 7 months with Build Alpha. If you're going to do Build Alpha, I would sign up for Jeff's course, because when you see what he did today, you think, oh, wow, this is great. And I got intrigued and I got lured into it. And ultimately, if I had to do it all over again, I'd finish Coder, I'd go through the Builder course, which I've already signed up for and I'm going to complete. And then I would tackle Build Alpha. So if you're out there and you're kind of new to all this, that's the route I would go based on my experience. Build Alpha looks really simple and easy. It isn't. You've got to have really good instruction. And I think the guy that built it did a great job with his videos, but I'm not, no affiliation with Jeff here, but I would absolutely go for that course at a minimum and just don't go trying it on your own.
I appreciate that. And I always push people to learn to code. You know, as great as Build Alpha is, I always use the analogy, if you want to be a work in Formula One, you want to be a Formula One driver, you can go through and try to become a Formula One driver and not understand a combustion engine. That's fine, I suppose. But if you understand the combustion engine, if you understand how braking works and aerodynamics and all of the technical stuff under the hood and how physics works, you're going to be better off. And I think that's really how it is. And also with coding, what people don't think about is if you learn to code, you it forces you to think a different way. It teaches you how to break down a complex problem into subsets. And really, it's just a thinking tool in that regard,
Yeah,
too.
that's an absolute important point. You learn how to think logically. You learn how to think like the
Yep.
computer's thinking.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
you
for sure.
have to. You have to.
You do.
And when it comes to Build Alpha is a tool, and it's a very powerful tool.
Right.
And so people come in there thinking it's a silver bullet. They're going to press a couple buttons and trade live. It's a tool, and you have to learn how to use it. And spending months on it, that's easy to do. And yeah, I appreciate the candor there.
Hey, Jeff, quick question. With Build Alpha, I've recently come across the instance. I'm generating the EL code, and I've had more than a half a dozen, maybe a dozen strategies that I get zero trades on TradeStation. Even though I got all these nice charts, everything looks good in Build Alpha, but when I move to TradeStation, there's nothing. And I tried adjusting it and trying to get them, I could get no trades to come out.
Hmm.
Have
Usually,
you experienced that?
I think I have seen something like that. What that often it might be strategies that how Build Alpha has some proprietary indicators. Those might not be working right when you move it over into TradeStation. That's the only thing that I think might be causing that. Have you noticed that at all?
Well, I was using pretty much legacy ones,
Oh,
the old
okay.
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I try to keep it simple because
Sure.
when you start getting complex,
Yeah.
yeah, things are just not going to go your way.
Because I know Dave has some proprietary indicators in there, and he's doing some stuff with DLLs. But uh, that would be where I would point that out. Yeah. So if you run into that again, go ahead and post that in the group, and we'll take a look. Because
So when I on from Build Alpha, when I changed the time frame versus what I ran the test on, then it doesn't show any trades.
yeah,
Oh, if
yeah,
that's a problem.
yeah, that
Yeah,
could
I
happen.
make sure mine are all ES60s, and that's why I imported the 60-minute data because I like doing it. I prefer day trading than holding overnight. So I just do it during the session time, and I get out by end of session or
Yeah.
at the end of session.
Well,
But
per Crystal's point, I just always use exchange time so that there's no questions about what time window are you actually in, you know?
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I always do the exchange time too.
Yeah.
The only time you can't is when you got to mix it with another indicator. Like if you need the VIX, I usually don't need the VIX, and I avoid that from Build Alpha because it wants to throw it in there. But then you got to go to local time if you want to be able to combine the signals.
All right, I'm taking a look at a couple other questions here in the comments as we get to the top of the hour. We'll try wrapping up then. I'm intrigued with how fast Build Alpha. Samir says, I'm intrigued how fast Build Alpha. Does it use the cloud or use personal computer? Yeah, it all runs locally. So yeah, it's not like some other ones that might use the cloud. at least this current version. Yeah, that's the last of the questions. So does anyone else have questions on what I covered? What does build alpha cost in your class? Yeah, so build alpha, you'll have, I think it's around $2,500 to $3,000. You'll have to contact Dave. I'll send out information about build alpha as well as the class as well after this. So
I will say this about Dave, he's incredibly responsive, like incredibly,
he is.
like minutes.
I like build alpha. I found when I was going through the RSDT on a certain key idea, I was finding like 7 or 8 variations that were really good, and I had a trouble picking one. So
Yeah.
I've kind of been doing the same thing already.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see build alpha as a tool, and you take an idea and just use build alpha to data mine ideas, or I should say additional filters and exits and stops. You know, you can't do that with everything. Build alpha does constrain you to a box. You have to work under the constraints of how Dave built it. But if you can do it, that's a great way.
Yeah, and you can use it with other platforms too. Like I've used it with NinjaTrader. So sometimes like when you're troubleshooting something and you think it might be TradeStation, if you got the other platform to switch to it, it helps troubleshoot.
Sure. All right, somebody's asking then about build off the portfolio. Let me show you that portfolio. I really don't, let's see where to go. I don't use the build alpha portfolio as it currently is. That's not what I want. Let me go to the portfolio. But they do have it will combine them in here. So we just had 3 in here. All right, just for example, you can go up and do the portfolio equity curve. So that's what the equity curve would look like for this one. And you can compare it to the underlying market. There's the market. It's pretty basic. I could just use it as a holding place. Yeah. All right, let me look here. All right, build up the portfolio. And let's know what David plans to release. Yeah. So Jade, yeah, everybody's waiting for that call from Dave. We've been waiting for a year or two. Probably some people say 3. Jeff, have you ever tried to trade systems instead of futures itself? In other words, you generate other strategies and went back quick. All right, let me read that. Have you ever tried to trade systems instead of futures itself? In other words, if you generate 100 strategies and you want to pick only 10 every month as some algo. Now, I haven't done, oh, okay, you have like some algo automatically pick. I don't have anything like that. Yeah, never done anything like that. If I understand what you're thinking of. All right, I'm going to wrap this up unless anyone else has any last burning questions on swarm mode. So I will give some more updates. If I tweak this process more, I'll send something out to the news group or post something on Circle. But
thanks for sharing this, Jeff. It's a great creative idea.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, Neil. Thanks, and appreciate your feedback too. You're always adding good questions, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone showing up on this day. And we'll call this one. So thanks again, and I will send out the link, or I send out an email with a link to the replay as well as anything else I brought up in here during the presentation. All right, everyone, take care.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.